Okay, I have notes because I really wanted to be coherent and like not go all over the map for you guys. Um, okay, so today, take out your notebooks. I'm going to screen share at certain times because I'm going to do a little bit of math and I need to physically do the math. And I know audible math is challenging, so you might want to take notes. Obviously, this will be recorded, but it's sometimes easier to take notes in real time. Today, I want to talk about sales. First, we're going to talk about the math part of sales, my favorite part. And then, second, the how part of sales.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
And before I dive into either of those, I just want to address kind of the elephant in the room, which is most creatives don't like sales. There's like a negative connotation to it. Raise your hand if you feel that way. Oh, almost every single hand, except for Lisa. She's like, I got this. So I don't know what it is, if it boils down to this idea of the door-to-door salesman feeling like salesy and schemy and like there seems to be, I think especially for women, female creatives, this sort of negative connotation with, if I'm trying to sell something, it will come across as needy and like I need the work or I'm desperate for the work and that I'm self-promoting. And there's, I think, a mental block in how we then assume others are perceiving us. And I know for designers, as I've talked to lots of designers about this, there's this mental block of, if I talk about needing the work or wanting the work, they might think I'm not good enough. Shouldn't my work just speak for itself? Too bad that is not true, unfortunately. And I always say, and if you've taken momentum, you've heard me say this before, I believe it doesn't matter how good you are if nobody knows you exist. And that speaks more to the marketing, but the same applies to sales. It doesn't matter how good you are if you can't talk about and bring people in and show them the value that you offer so that they then get to experience working with you. And so I'm hoping today to just sort of reframe it a little bit for you, this idea behind selling. Jennifer says, I hate sales. So the interesting thing is, at first, I used to always think I was so bad at sales. Like, I'm so bad at sales. And then I had people say to me like, oh, Rebecca, you're so good at sales. How do you do it? You're so good at selling. And I was like, ooh, I don't want to be associated with being good at selling. If anything, saying I wasn't good at sales was like a badge of honor. Like, I'm not good at sales. Like, I'm too nice. Like, I'm not good at sales. But I realized that being good at selling is only being good at sharing the value you have to offer. And when you really believe in what you're selling, which right now is your business and yourselves, and transform people's lives, because let's face it, that's what we do, then it doesn't come across as salesy, as sleazy, as selling. It comes across as salesy when you see someone who's trying to sell something that they don't believe in. It's the telemarketer who calls you on the phone and is using all those salesy, oh my God, I had this guy on the phone the other day because Mittman had soiled some chairs that they'd picked up, and so they took them to get them cleaned, and they're really good as our receiver. They're really good at that. And the guy who they had clean called me and was like, hey, Rebecca. And he was hard selling. You know the hard sell? Where it's like, I am not going to let it go. Like, we're the best in the upholstery cleaning business. I'm like, well, we work with someone. Well, I really encourage you to try us. And here's what our customers are saying. And I was like, whoa, like, dude, I am so off put that I don't ever want to work with you because all you're doing is badgering me. Chances are none of you here have ever badgered anyone for a sale, nor would you ever, so you will never be seen as sleazy. So I just want to say that. Okay, I want us to dive into, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll hate sales a little less, but I think also part of it is just practice. Practice, practice, practice till you're comfortable with anything. It's like being in front of a camera, being here on Zoom. The first few times I did a Zoom, which were those designer meetups, like in 2019, or 2020, I guess, after we couldn't meet in person, I was so uncomfortable and so nervous and was so self-conscious. But the more I do it, the easier it gets. So first I want to talk about, welcome Jamie, she just joined us. First I want to talk about the math. So the math part of sales, and I don't want to get too much into marketing, but I think it's really, really important. Has anyone here listened to my podcast? It's one of the very earliest ones, number 39, I believe it is, or 36 or 39, with Tiffany Heimpel of LinkedIn. Catherine, yeah, some of you have. It's from the very first season. If you haven't, go back and listen to it. I re-listened to it. Prepping for today's call, I listened to it again. She is such a maverick. She's amazing when it comes to sales. She just asks. She just goes for it, and she talks and goes into more detail about this in that podcast, so definitely go check it out. But she talks about how sales is a formula, which was the first time I've ever heard anyone say that. This idea that it's simple math. Understanding how you can sell is simple math. And the math behind it is understanding what your sales funnel and your process is and factoring in how much of one thing will lead to the next and then lead to the next. Because the type of selling you do at each phase is different. And I'm not going to get too into the weeds with the marketing sales funnel because we did do a call here in Designer's Room last year with my husband. So if you haven't watched it or you need a refresher, go back and watch it. It's in your portal. I don't remember what month it was from, but it is back. It's with Chris Karski, he's my husband, and he talks about that marketing funnel. And so the first thing you need to understand, and I'm going to share my screen here for a second here, is the sales funnel, which is same as your marketing, right? Marketing and sales are somewhat interchangeable. Marketing is more about getting the word out, and the sales is actually once the people come to you, how do you hold on to them? How do you convert them into a client? Is everyone familiar with the term conversion? So conversion is when a lead or a prospect comes to you and then they turn or they convert into an actual paying client. Let me show my screen. So this is my sales funnel. It's no surprise you guys already know all of this, but yours probably looks something like it. This is our sales process. Awareness is at the top, which for us is Instagram, referrals, and publicity. That's really the bulk of how people find us. Then they contact us, there's a discovery call, then there's a consultation, and eventually there's full service design. Full stop. That is, in a nutshell, our sales process. So if you haven't given it any thought, I mean, if you've done POP, you've probably already done this, so this should be, you already know all this. But what is the path, essentially, that anyone who comes to you takes until they're a paying client? And the reason there's this little dot here is because I want to stop at the consultation and focus on this. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Okay, so you get a snapshot of the sales process, right? So with my sales process, I'm always selling one thing, the consultation. I am focused most of my marketing efforts and most of our sales wording, tactics, whatever you will, on selling the consultation. Why? Has anyone heard this before? So the reason I'm selling the consultation is because that, first of all, is our first paid service offering. Second of all, it is the lower ticket entry point of our service offerings. And thirdly, that is where I really sell them on the full Monty. So consultation, we try to make the focus of Instagram, email marketing, whatever it is, adding value is selling that consultation. And for us, our consultation is $750 plus HST, as you know, which is a higher ticket consultation for my area. But that helps because I don't get people who can't afford it. Sometimes people slip through the cracks. It's going to happen. So selling the consultation is important because that is what is going to bring you those really qualified leads. Because the way my business model is set up is just because you book a consultation, it doesn't necessarily mean you are 100% our client, right? It's like the first step. But because they have to pay, it pre-qualifies them. For me, the consultation is not a moneymaker. It sounds like a lot of money, but when you look at it over the course of the year, it's not paying even my mortgage, right? Like the consultation is a drop in the bucket, but it's there. The only reason we charge the dollar value we do is to filter certain people through the door. Okay, so I want to talk about the sales tab. We're going to get into the how and what to say and the objections and things like that. But before we do, I want to talk about the conversion, because this is something that my friend Tiffany shares, and she's talked to me at length about it. And I think it's been really powerful for us in understanding how we sell. And it is understanding what your conversion rate is, meaning how many consultations do you need to have to book a job, a full service job. Now, again, if your process is different than mine, you'll just have to think about how it applies to you. If you only offer consultations, then it might look different. It would be how many discovery calls do you need to have to book a consultation? And again, I'm just going to focus on the one conversion rate today, but I encourage you to go back and figure out your conversion at every step of your process. So if we're looking back at this screen, wrong screen, these are my notes, top secret notes here, right? So it would be helpful to know specifics of how does IG, Instagram, convert to them filling out our form. These are harder metrics to track. So I like to start with the one that's the easiest to track, which is the consultation converting to full service design. And then the second one we track is how many discovery calls does it take to get us to the consultation, right? You can keep doing that. So how do you calculate the conversion rate and why is it important? So first of all, the how you calculate it is really simple. You tally, I like to do it, look back at the past year. And if you don't have a record of it somewhere, if you're not keeping a record of your consultations, go back through your calendar or emails. It might be a little bit of a detective journey, and I've been there, it's okay. But now moving forward, maybe you start tracking them somewhere on a spreadsheet or inside a program, or we use Dubsado right now, which is great because that's how we track all of our leads. But how many consultations did you have last year, and write them down. And this is something that I've done in my end of year review. So if you guys have been here and remember me talking about the year in review, this is part of what I do. But look at how many consultations you actually booked and had, and then how many projects did you have? So my example, I'm just going to little cheat here, was, okay. So for example, you had, let's say, I'm going to do really easy math because that's what I need. You had 10 consultations in 2021. And it happens that you actually had 5 paying jobs. Well, that's really easy to figure out because that's a 50% conversion rate. Meaning that for every 2 consultations, 1 turned into a job. Does everyone follow this math? Okay. So you can figure that out for last year, figure it out for the year before. Where are you at this year? Would be really great to see. And in June, that's when we're doing our mid-year check-in. I'm going to check in with all of you on your habits and all the things that you committed to and see where we're at, because we're almost halfway through the freaking year. But it would be helpful to understand, okay, how many consultations have I had in 2022? How many of those turned into a job? And it's not always going to be exact. It could be like 5.172, conversion, right? Or jobs, but this gives you an idea. And I remember a few years ago, I had about a 50% conversion rate, which I think is really, really good. But part of that is that I do fewer consultations because of the high ticket nature, right? So if you have a free consultation, which I don't advise, then you might have a much lower conversion rate. Okay. So there's some chitter chatter in the chat. Chitter chatter. Remember when my answer was this year? What? What are you talking about? That was, oh, was 68 in the year. Haha, not anymore. That was crazy. I did think that was a lot. So I'd be curious, just type in the chat, since I want us to keep moving forward, but type in the chat, do you track your consultations? And how do you do it? Do you use spreadsheets? Do you use a program? We used Dubsado. Just type in the chat yes or no if you do or you don't, and what you use to track those consultations to give everyone else an idea. Okay, lots of spreadsheets, Google Sheets. I have a table, spreadsheet, Excel. Awesome. So that's amazing. And you're tracking the jobs because that's really easy to track, right? You know how many jobs you've had, so you can figure out how many. Okay, I'll stop sharing for a second. Oh, a note app in your phone. Perfect. I mean, tracking it somewhere is better than nowhere. It could just be on a notepad, right? You could have it stuck to your wall. Okay, so a big question typically is, what's a good conversion rate? And the answer is it depends. It really depends on so many factors. I don't think there's an industry standard when it comes to this type of thing. What I would say is it depends on you. And so the more you track it, the better it will be, right? So I remember, I think it was in 2018 or 2019, I had about a 50% conversion rate. And then I was like, I'm going to charge more for my consultation. And so I did. And then I found that I had fewer consultations. And so I think it was maybe the same number of jobs, but fewer consultations. So my conversion rate went up. It's more useful, I think, to track and measure yourself versus measuring yourself against other people. So we're going to take that. Now we understand the formula and how to convert. And actually, before we move on, does anyone know their conversion rate from consultation to jobs that they want to share in the chat? Anyone know offhand or want to verbally share? No? Okay. Your homework for our next meeting is to calculate what is your conversion rate currently. Let's make it super simple. Don't worry about last year. If you do last year, that you get bonus. That's like a bonus question. What is your conversion rate in 2022? And I'll do the homework too. From consultation to full paying job. Now, the challenge with that is that I realize you may have had a consultation last year that turned into a job that's still ongoing. So I do like to look at it over a longer period of time, because right now, any of the jobs I currently have are from consultations I did in 2021. So if you can do it over a longer period of time, I think it's a little bit more beneficial. Otherwise, it's not real. It's not helpful. Okay, so that is your homework. Calculate how many consultations you had maybe last year then, and of those, how many turn into jobs, and what is your conversion rate? Okay, so why do we need to know this? Or how does this help us? Well, when we set our goals in January for financials, we wanted to figure out how to get there, right? So what is really amazing about knowing your conversion rate is that you can start to figure out how many consultations you need in a year to reach a goal. So let's use this example. If you wanted, I'm going to put it in paper because I know if it was me, I would want to see it on paper. I'm going to share my screen. If you want to have, there we go, 10 jobs, that means you're going to need a minimum at this conversion rate, at the 50%, of 20 consultations. Is everybody following? Okay, good. So if you want 10 jobs, that means you need to have a minimum of 20 consultations. So then what I would say is, okay, in the course of the year, How many consultations is that a month? So what's 20? I'm going to get my calculator. What is 20 divided by 12? 20 divided by 12 is 1.66666. So 1.5 consultations, 1.5 consults a month. I love this because this becomes a sales goal. This becomes, I need to have 1.5 consult. Let's say 2, just for safe measure, right? Say you get 2 consultations a month. For sure, you should be able to get 10 jobs out of that based on your conversion rate of 50%. Then when you know your goal is 2 consultations a month, you just focus on that. You've got your time slots and you're checking in with your team. And we had this goal for a while. I think it was back in 2020 or 2019. It was like, we want 2 consultations a month. If I get 2, I think it was 2.5. If I get 2.5 consultations a month, which means some months it's 2, some months it's 3, then I should be on track to get the number of jobs that I need. Now today, I'm not going to go into the dollar value of those jobs. That is something that we talked about with Mara Lee when she was here. And Ariel, I'll get to you in 1 second, answer your question, because I think that is the next layer, and I don't want to dive into that too much today. But if you know that each job, you want to have a $200,000 job versus a $50,000 job, like budget, then that, is earlier on in your process. It comes down to your communication. But if you know you want 10 jobs and that's healthy and that's good, maybe you want fewer jobs. Well, that means you're going to need probably fewer consultations, but it depends on your conversion rate. If we want to be focused on selling the consultation, then we don't want to get too caught up in the whole process, but at the same time, we do want to educate those people who are coming for a consultation that this is how we work, right? Yeah. And it's going to come down to a combination of marketing tactics and sales strategies where it is talking about everything you do, but also making sure you talk about the consultation. Because I think what happens is designers get really caught up in what they do on an artistic level, or some of you are like, Mina, you're great at sharing about your process, but a lot of designers are like, look at this beautiful room. We love to focus on the function. And yes, I want you to talk about those things, but most of the time designers are not talking about their consultation. And the only designers I see talk about the consultation are the ones who just have, like you said, a one-off consultation. I'll share, this is what we have, and I think yours is probably, maybe looks different, but it's the same concept. It's digressing for a minute here. But this is what we send them once they've booked our consultation, right? So it's like, yay, here's what to expect. Now this is once they've paid though. There's something else that we share with it in our About Us document to let them know about the consultation. But I think it's really helpful to have that and remind them that the consultation and what it's for. To talk about the sales too, when we talk about consultations and when you're selling to in a discovery call or in social media or with anyone that contacts you, I think what you said, Ariel, is you got hit the nail on the head. The consultation is the first step. Right? And it's really just talking about it. And so I think it's okay to sell the consultation, but sell it as, this is the first step. You want to work with us? This is how it starts. Let's talk about that. Let's get you in on a consultation. Let's focus on the consultation, as opposed to, oh, you want to work with us? Well, here's what and then you do share a little, sometimes maybe a little too much, and they just want to get little bite-sized bits. So starting with the consultation, and I'm going to share this in a minute, but it's actually asking for the work, right? Asking, which is crazy. And if you listen to that podcast that I mentioned earlier with Tiffany Heipel, she's amazing at that. Just saying, oh, hey, do you have a job? I want to work for you. Who does that? And the worst thing that can happen is no. I want to switch gears now and go into a little bit more of what Ariel was talking about, which is the how part of sales. So I'm going to walk you guys through 10 sales tips that will help you boost your conversions. And I'll give you some examples, and then I would love to hear from you guys. If there's something specifically or an idea that you've seen, please chime in and share as we go through the different tips. So the very first one is sell, and this is, in my opinion, the biggest. I have Jamie saying, do you still have the Facebook Live with Tiffany? Oh, it would be an Instagram live. Did she go live with me on Instagram? Probably. And it would just be on the Ms. Rebecca Hay Instagram account. So if you want to look back, I don't have a lot of videos in that account, so you can scroll back. Oh, it was Facebook? All right. Really? Okay. I don't know how I did things a couple years ago. Clearly, things are foggy. We'll find out, and we'll share it inside the Designers Room community. I will make a note of that. Okay. She's killing it at LinkedIn, by the way. She got this like Uber promotion. She like flies all over the US. That woman's on fire. Okay, I'll have her come back for a follow-up. So this is the most important tip, I think, of all of the ones, because this is where you're going to come up with the wording for your copywriting, for your Instagram, for your website, for your conversations on the phone, for when you're at a party and you're talking about what you do. And the tip is to, and you've probably heard this a million times, sell solutions to challenges. That's it. Sell solutions to challenges. What we do, and actually Tiffany does talk about this which I thought was really neat to hear from someone who's not a designer. She does talk about this in the podcast, but she talks about how what we do truly can change someone's life. And I think sometimes as designers we take for credit, what is the word? I can't speak today, not advantage. We don't value our worth. So we don't value what it is we do. Say that again.
We take for granted.
Thank you. Oh my God, guys, I definitely need a vacation. We take for granted our skill set, and so we don't value. And I'm not going to get into the whole we got to charge our worth. You guys have heard me go on that soapbox before. But we sometimes forget that what we do really does impact people's lives. We go in, and whether it's aesthetics or it's functionality, we can transform somebody's everyday living. Whether it's a custom built-in unit in the entry or just painting their walls yellow. Bad choice of color, but whatever it might be, can really, really positively impact their lives. So you want to remember that you are solving problems. And the first sales tip is to sell solutions to the challenges your clients are facing or the problems. And so one exercise that you could do, which is a really great way to come up with great content across a year, is to think about your ideal client. You know her really well. Betty and Jane, you must be the most familiar with her because you've just been doing an Empower process. And this is going to be a little repetition from what we do in the course, but is what are her struggles? What is your ideal client's biggest problems? What are the challenges that they face in their everyday lives? And how do you solve them? And I just heard this recently from Stu McLaren. So I was doing a course with him, and he says to come up with 13 challenges, which I think is brilliant. So I'm sharing it here. Come up with 13. You're going to come up with probably a whole lot more, but come up with what are the biggest challenges, 13 of them, that your ideal client or your dream client, maybe you're not there yet, but like it's your ideal dream client, faces. And then for each challenge, come up with 4 solutions. For each challenge, come up with 4 solutions. And if you do 4 solutions for 13 challenges, you will have 52 pieces of content, which equates to 52 weeks in the year. So if you're trying to come up with an email that goes out once a week, or an Instagram live, or a video, or a blog post, yes, an example. Great question. So, okay, what would be a challenge? What somebody shout out? What would be a challenge that your client faces? Anyone? Okay, I'm going to go with the kitchen because that's an easy one, right? So our dream clients often do not have, their kitchen does not have adequate storage, right? Like it's a mess, like they can't find anything. They're so frustrated by their kitchen specifically. It doesn't work for them and their kids and their family. So here's 4 solutions. One solution is that we design kitchens to be ergonomic. space savers. And you can go into detail about that. What does that mean? There's the kitchen triangle, showcase your value and how you solve it and how you solve for family living. The next solution could be dedicated storage. So that's one of the problems, right? People don't have a specific place for matches or pens, or the cutlery drawer has kind of become a catch-all. That's the challenge, right? There's no dedicated, not everything doesn't have its place. So one solution is we come up with dedicated storage. Maybe you have pictures of a customized this, or posts that you put plates in, or whatever your go-to is. That's another solution. And the next solution could be aesthetic, color, right? Like for me, I know I love to infuse color in some capacity. So maybe part of their frustration with their kitchen is that it doesn't feel like it's them. This is kind of the more than one problem, but I'm just trying to generalize to give you guys an idea. And so the next solution could be like, we make it also really beautiful so that when you're in your kitchen, you feel a sense of calm. So that overwhelm and that frustration with the lack of utility is solved. It could be a little itty bitty solution. It could be a more complex solution. The idea is that if you really think carefully and down to the detail, you guys are coming up with solutions all the time that might be like, for example, we just did we're prepping for another presentation. And one of our clients' pain points is they don't have anywhere to store their records. That's very specific, but the general problem could be like lack of proper storage, right? And so one solution is we're going to come up with cubbies that will fit their records. Another solution is we're finding a great location for the record storage in their home that makes sense. So whatever it is that it's your client, I think it's a really great way to naturally have talking points that help and show others that you can solve client problems. And then the marketing brain starts thinking, okay, now I've got a list of all these problems and I got a list of all these solutions. Well, let's make some Instagram posts. Let's put it in an email. Let's look at that one kitchen and let's not talk about anything other than customized storage. That's a blog post. A few weeks later, and again, if you're going to do this as a content plan, this is a marketing side, but like spread it out over the year. Don't just do the one problem unless that's your plan. Unless maybe this month is all about kitchens. And do you ever feel overwhelmed with your kitchen? It's so frustrating. Well, this month I'm going to share with you, 4 solutions that we help our clients solve in their kitchen. I don't know, these are kind of more marketing tactics. But the idea is that when a client then approaches you, at any step in that sales process, you're not selling, you're just explaining or telling them that you solve problems. You're a problem solver. And here are some examples. Or somebody reaches out to you and you say, oh, you're looking to renovate your kitchen. Oh, I wrote this really great blog post about how we optimize storage in a small kitchen. We are experts at small kitchens. We're always working in tiny, tight spaces. And so we always come up with really creative, customizable solutions. I did write a blog post. You should check it out. This is before they even hired you. So this will help to boost your conversions, meaning that when you're on the phone with someone and you hear a nugget and they're saying, and you say, well, tell me about your space. Like, what are the challenges? I like to ask them, what are the challenges? Like, what are you looking to change? Or how do you want it to feel? You can then speak to those challenges because you've got, chances are if they're your ideal client, that's one of the challenges you have on your paper anyways. And also when you're in their house, you're showing them, and I really am a firm believer in that in a consultation, you give value. You provide value. Give them all the ideas. There's more where that came from. Right? Give. Give all the ideas. Help them. Show them how helpful you are. I hear designers say sometimes like, well, I try to give a few ideas and then hold back because I don't want to give them the full meal deal until they've hired me. But I think that's backwards thinking because I think that the more value you can give in a consultation, the more perceived value there is behind that value. And then they see, oh, wow, she's really good. We got to work with her. Okay, the second tip is manage your selling time. Manage your selling time. And what this means is being strategic of where you spend your time selling your services. So understanding your conversion is a big help in that. Understanding your referral source, like where are clients coming from, so you know where to be and where to show up. But also charging for your consultations so that you're not managing your selling time is not doing consultations for free. Because the consultation, yes, it's paid, but that is where you sell your service. In my opinion, the consultation is one giant sales pitch, but in the most organic, authentic way. To me, that consultation is gold. That is where you show them you can listen. You come up with ideas to sell your worth and show them there's so much more value where that came from. You also walk them through your process. What does it look like to work with you? If you can focus your sales pitch to that consultation, as opposed to feeling like you need to go to everyone's house, then you're managing that time. The third tip is always be closing. You ever heard that term before? Always be closing. And always prospecting. And this is the one that I think we struggle with the most, because I've struggled with it myself. We go through these waves. Oh my God, I don't have any work coming. When's the next job? Like, I haven't heard back from that proposal. And like, I don't even have any consultations booked. Oh my God, I'm going out of business, right? I need to reach out to this person and that person, and I got to do a post on Instagram, and I got to let people know we need work. And then, whoa, the floodgates open, and you're so busy, you don't do one post, you don't reach out to a single person, you're not prospecting, meaning you're not looking out there for leads, and then you're in that cycle all over again. Creatives, especially in a project-based service business, this is happening all the time. It happens to me all the time. Like, I go through these waves too, where I'm like, sell. Whoa, I gotta get in the business and work, and then we're not selling. You need to get into a system where it's repeatable, and that maybe it's in your calendar. Maybe every Friday you email past clients, 1 or 2 a week. Maybe every Friday, I'm just picking Friday as an example, you reach out to realtors. Maybe that's when you write a blog post. Maybe that's when you create an Instagram post that is about asking for work. Jocelyn, who's not here today, had the most beautiful post on her Instagram, and I screenshotted it and I saved it to my phone, asking for work. That's what this line is. Like, always be prospecting and closing. Ask for the freaking work. This should really just be called ask. We do not ask enough for the work, myself included. We do not ask enough for the work. We do not tell people we are available. They don't know that you're available. They might think you're too busy. And I've said this here before, but I've had a situation where somebody reached out to me because I did a story, because I was like looking for the work. I'm like, I'm just going to post about it. And she sent me a DM and was like, oh my gosh, I've been meaning to reach out to you, but I figured I see you on Instagram. You've got all these projects. You look so busy. And, but then I saw your post and I was like, hey, to her husband, she's like, I said to him, like, Rebecca's got room for us. We should reach out to her. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, they think I'm such a big deal. I'm not that big of a deal. I need work all the time. So you need to be asking for the work. Jocelyn's Instagram was a post. It was within the last week. So go to August Olive Interiors. I shared it in, or I think I shared it in Power of Process because I thought it was so good. I'm gonna find it for you guys right now. Hold up, because it was so good. And if you're watching this after the fact, okay, this is what it says. This is what it looked like. Can you guys see my screen here? This is the picture on her. It's like a living room. And she says, it may only be May, but we are now finalizing our fall calendar for full service renovation and decorating spots. Link to book the first step in our design process, the discovery call, is in stories. Don't need full service? We can still help. We have a few summer virtual design packages available. Book your call to get started. We can't wait to help you love the home you are living in. Heart. I love that, because nowhere here does she sound desperate. I don't know, maybe she is desperate. Doesn't sound like it. Sounds super professional, but she also comes across as just really wanting to help. Like, we want to help more people. Here we are. But I think that most of us see this and are like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, I'm going to do that. And we do it once or twice a year. But what if we did that on a regular basis? Because not everybody sees our posts. Okay. The next one is focus on quality, not quantity. Quality, not quantity. And that is, we can sometimes get carried away in trying to help everybody, right? Maybe it's free consultations or million Instagram posts. I'm going to put, at one point I was like, Vera, we need to post 3 times a day, every single day, because that was like the trajectory of Instagram, right? And so you're posting all this, and there's no way it can all be quality content, at least not at our size, our business size. We don't have a marketing team. And quality versus quantity. Making sure that when you have those discovery calls, they're the qualified leads, right? You don't need to book everyone for a discovery call. Don't waste your time. Pre-qualify them with an About Us document. That type of thing. Bye, Lisa. Go sell. The next one is always have a plan when someone's interested. Have a plan. Because it's so interesting. I was listening to a podcast recently. I don't remember whose it was. It was someone talking about sales. And she was saying that she does a lot of reading body language. And she had been at these entrepreneurial events for women. And she noticed that, her friend wasn't picking up on these clues that the other person was interested in her service. And so she would talk, the person would say, like, what is it that you do? And she's like, oh, I don't remember what the service was. Like, I help, I'm a dog groomer. I groom dogs. And the other person was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I have a bichon frise. Oh, wow. Like, where are you located? And she's like, oh, we're here. And then the conversation ended and there was no follow-up. But if somebody shows even an inkling of interest, we tend to be like, if they want me, they'll find me. Oh, like business cards. Oh, that's so sleazy, giving a business card. Who does that? Yes, Jamie says the sales maven. There you go. You can check her out. Listen to the buying signals. And like, not everybody is going to be a body language expert or understand all the buying signals, but always have a plan. So if you are going to be talking to someone on a call, what's the next step? That's why I love my discovery call script, because it's all scripted out and I know that the next step is booking a consultation. That's part of why I love process so much. It's super clear. It used to be that people would call me out of the blue, I'd answer, I'd be driving my kids to school and I'd be like, okay, and in my head I'm trying to think of what was the next thing to do. I didn't really have a plan. So have a plan. If somebody sends you a DM, all of you've probably experienced this. Someone DMs you on Instagram and is like, oh, what's, I don't know, like I want to hire you, or I'm doing a reno, or whatever it might be. What's your plan? Do you always send them to the same place? Do you send them to your contact form on your website? Or do you say, I'm going to email you? Come up with a plan and be consistent. Because otherwise that's how leads slip through the cracks. At least that's happened with us. Somebody emails me, someone I know, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'll send you that thing. But it's out of my process. Vera doesn't know. Vera is the one who typically manages onboarding. 3 weeks later, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot to email Amanda. Shit, it actually just happened. My plan, I'm going to connect you with Vera. I'm going to connect you with Vera every time. Always have a plan. Because otherwise you lose when they're at the peak of interest. Okay, I'm gonna power through these so we can have questions. The next one is, don't undervalue yourself. Meaning that shoot high. Ask for the consultation to be paid. Put the dollar value out there. Go after that real estate agent that's in a fancy neighborhood. Don't settle. Don't settle for what's comfortable and what you know. Push yourself beyond your comfort zone. Push yourself beyond your boundaries. Like my friend Tiffany does. When she met the guy who was in, I think, film and television, she's like, oh, cool. Do you have a job? Like, don't hold yourself back because you think you may not be at that upper echelon. Go there, ask. Chances are they need what you have to offer. Second last one. Did I get to second last one? Are these 10? I don't even know where we're at with numbers. Be prepared all the time. Meaning, I like to, my thought behind this is being prepared all the time means you have those documents. You have that thing that Ariella just shared with us, or the document that I shared with you. You're prepared. So when somebody comes to you, you can send it to them. Being prepared could just be having a discovery call script. For me, that was the biggest game changer, the biggest. Because I've got my sales like sentences that I need to say and the questions I need to ask. So I'm prepared when they call me. Be prepared when you go to a consultation. If you just show up and you're going to wing it, you're not maximizing the impact that you can have and the potential you would have to convert. Even if you're good at winging it, you're going to be even better if you wing it and you have a plan. I say that to my husband all the time. I'm like, just imagine if you planned too. And the last one, I think this is the last one, is provide value. Always provide value. Then you're not selling. You're providing value. It only feels like selling when you feel inauthentic about what you're talking about. But if it's right back to the very first one where we talk about solutions and challenges and solutions to those challenges, if you're providing value in everything you do, then you will naturally sell yourself. Okay, I want to open up to questions. We've got 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If you guys want to stay a couple minutes after so we can talk about any questions that you guys have about sales or anything else. This is not the hot seat Q&A though, so save those for next time, but anything ideally related to sales. Anything that I shared that you feel like you need to work on or you feel like you're really good at already? Is there anything there that you hadn't heard about? Jamie has a question in the chat. What do you do if a referral gives your phone number out and a potential client calls you? How do you navigate calling them back or address their questions kindly without saying to go to our website? So I don't answer my phone if it's an unknown number. That's one thing you could do. Or they usually call the office, and so the office will set it up. But if I would happen to answer and this was a new client, I would say, oh my gosh, it's so wonderful to get your call. Oh, I would love to hear more about your project. I'm just stepping into a meeting. Can I take down your information and we'll find a good time for us both to connect? That's what I would do. Some people would say, do the sale right then and there, but that involves you being prepared. Because again, this comes back to always being prepared. If you can pull up that discovery call script and dive right in and you've got the capacity, great. But if you're walking into the grocery store, I don't advise you have that conversation. That's what I would say. Because a referral is strong. Always find out who the person is that referred you immediately so that you don't get off the call and you're like, oh shoot, where did they come from? So that you can always follow up, or if you can't find them again, you can reach out to that person who referred you. Catherine says this happens to me a lot and I don't like impromptu calls. So that's when I would just not answer your phone. I know most salespeople would say this is bad, but this is what works for me because I'm not as good if it's on the fly. So this is what works for me. So take this with a grain of salt. I would not answer, but make sure that my voicemail was really specific. So if you don't answer, then I would say like, thanks for calling, Catherine, whatever, Polished Interiors. I'm not answering the phone because I might be on site or I'm likely on a job site, but leave your name and number and I'd be happy, or leave your email, you could say. Email is typically the best way to connect. If you leave your phone number and your email address, then we can get back to you as promptly as possible. But make sure that it's not just like, hi, it's Catherine, leave a message. I don't imagine yours says that, but if you have something, then you feel a little bit more confident that if you don't get to the phone, they know you're a designer, you're likely busy doing your job, but that their call matters and that you'll call them back. And you could also always have a printed discovery call script in your bag. If you live your life on the road, or like in what are those things called? A clipboard. Like I have a clipboard with a pen. Just have it there. Honestly, like if you need the work and people are calling you, don't brush them off. Like if you can take the call and it makes sense, but if you can't because you are literally in the middle of doing 5 things, don't take the call. Because it's not gonna, I took a call when I was up north and I was scrambling because I'd forgotten, it was in my calendar, then it popped, disappeared, it came back, and I like scrambled. I didn't ask half the questions. I didn't even figure out what the budget was. I like randomly calculated what I thought the fee would be, which I never do. I did all these things that I never do, that I teach everyone not to do, and I did them like 3 months ago. And I said to Vera, I'm like, I can't do these when I'm not like in that headspace and prepared and ready to go. It's just not beneficial to me. Anything else? Jamie.
So I had a phone call this week from someone who left me a voicemail, and he didn't say who gave him my phone number because it's not listed anywhere. But he said, "Hi, I'm looking to do a new build. We're moving from Toronto to like where we are locally, and he wants help with that and decorating and all that stuff." And it sounded wonderful, and just left me his phone number to call him back, which then I felt like I was on the hook to call him back, obviously, even though I had a very full day. So I called him back first thing the next morning, but I was like, I don't even know what he knows about our business. And we typically have people fill out our inquiry form. Then our studio manager sends out our what to expect. Well, not what to expect, but our investment guide, which explains everything about our business. And then we book a discovery call after they've been informed. So this was like going in blind to something. And he ended up just finding us on Google. It wasn't an actual referral, which is wonderful that someone found us through Google. But then I was like, there's so many things I forgot to even ask about timeline and whatever, because I didn't even know what he wanted from me necessarily. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly.
It was just
Because he
confusing.
didn't. So I think that's a great story though, because it's helpful to be reminded that at the time it might feel like you're being rigid to force someone to follow your process, but actually it does everyone a service. Like it doesn't do him a service because you don't ask the questions maybe that he needs to hear or answers, and vice versa. And I've had that too, where they, like, if they don't fill out that intake form, I don't know their budget, I don't know their timeline, I don't know anything about them. And then I have to remember to ask those questions because they're not naturally part of the discovery call. Because I usually have that information, or it's flagged that I don't have it, so I ask it, right? So, I mean, in future, you could get someone from your office to call him back.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Because he gave you his number, so you could say like, "Hey Alberto," that's my office manager. "Hey Alberto," or "Hey Vera, can you call George? He reached out to me. Just let him know that I'm in meetings all day, but you know I know his call's important." And so, like, what your office person could do is say, "Hey, Jamie gave me your number. She's in meetings all day, but I know this call's important to her. Can I schedule a time?" Or, "Hey, can you fill out this information?" Or maybe the office manager, if this person is like really resisting internet, which they probably aren't because they use Google, you could just ask those questions. Like if you could equip your office manager to help you and say, "Can you make sure that you ask the questions that are in the intake form?"
Okay. That's a really good idea. Thank you.
Or send them to the website. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
Anything else? Did that give you a little bit of a inspirational kick in the butt? Yes. It's a funny time right now in the industry. Things have been weird for the past few years. It's been really, really high, and things feel like they might calm down for a little bit, which means we need to be on our A game going after the work and lock in those jobs so that if there is a bit of an economic downturn, I don't want to be like doom and gloom, but I want us to be prepared. You've got a pipeline, right? And you're ready to go, and you're ready to take on those jobs so that you guys are the ones that are thriving through the ups and downs in the economy. Like with construction prices going up and up and up, and with all the crazy sticker shock that we're having, to Ariela's point, like I'm getting sticker shock. So we're getting it. Our clients are like, "What?" Like I had to have a call with a past client who wanted to do something that I told her would cost about $300,000, that she thought $100,000 would be enough, or $150,000 would be enough. And I'm like, it would have been 2 years ago, but it's probably not. And they were just like, whoa, like this is crazy. We don't want to do it. And so I'm not trying to scare people from working with me, but there's no point in them coming on board. And then there's that friction of, well, we can't afford this or that. So it is changing, I think, and depending on the type of work you do and the clients you have, but just keep putting yourself out there is all I'm going to say. Make yourself visible, ask for the work, sell your consultation, get them into your world, because then they're going to see how amazing you are and what you have to offer. And if it means traveling a little further than usual, then maybe you do that. But charge for your travel time. Because gas is expensive. Okay, thank you so much, ladies. I hope that was helpful. I'm going to be following all of you on social if you post there. If not, do you have an email? Do you guys have an email newsletter? Most of you. It's a really great way to be in front of people, is to send them, even if it's once a quarter. If, as my husband told me, because he's in marketing, once they've engaged with your services, especially if they've paid you, that is them. Once they've engaged with you, you can email them. And then just make sure there's something in the email that says you don't want to get these emails, just click here and they can unsubscribe. And people will unsubscribe and don't take it personally. It's just, they just aren't into it right now, right? But I would email current past clients. Initially, I had family and friends on my list. And then I just started gathering, like anyone who enters, if you have an intake form on your website, or if they call you, get their email, add them to the list, right? They've now engaged with you. Like you can have a checkbox thing too. You can gather people's emails from Instagram, because then you can send them a little bit more information. They can have the insider scoop, and you can let them know, here's what our consultation. Did you know that we offer consultations? Did you know the consultation is the first step in working with us? We have openings this summer. You know, we'd love to come into your home and you know, solve all your problems, take all your worries away. We're not active with our blogs. So sometimes I'll just share, here's what's going on in Toronto, a link to like an article, an art show, or something like that. But if you have content, absolutely link it, because you're going to be drawing them in further into your realm. Yeah. My friend Jessica Kelly has this really great thing. I think it's at the bottom of all of her emails. Maybe not. Okay, I'm just looking at her email right now. It was just one. I thought she did it every time. I was like, good for her. I guess not. I want to share this with you guys if I can find it. Yeah. Okay. Here, I'm just gonna share this, and then I gotta go because I gotta go. I gotta let you guys go. Okay. This is my friend. She's an interior designer here in Toronto. Her name's Jessica Kelly. Jessica Kelly Designs is her email. This is from the spring. What I really liked about hers, she has someone who helps her with it. She doesn't do it herself. So if you're like, oh my God, that looks so amazing, mine doesn't look like that, do not worry and do not be hard on yourself. She actually pays someone to help her. But at the bottom, and I loved this, because of course I'm her friend, so I'm on her email list, and I read it. At the bottom, this, which is interesting because I just looked at her recent newsletter. She did not have this. So this was her not always asking for it. But if you're thinking about starting, we'd love to hear from you. This is just another simple example of how to ask. It doesn't sound salesy. It's like, I'm here to help. And what happens when I click on her contact us? It goes straight to her website. It's a beautiful pop-up. Straight to her website, which is her, fill it out form. There you go. Some ideas. All right, everybody, I'm going to let you go. And I'll see you in our next call when I'm back. I'm sure I'll share a little bit of my journey somewhere on social, or maybe I just will tap right out. We'll see. To be determined. Okay. Bye, everybody. See you soon.
So there you have it. That is just an example of one of our monthly calls. Sometimes in Designer's Room, we have guests, and those are awesome. I love bringing in guests. We often will bring in someone we've had on the podcast who we really liked and thought was awesome. And so then they come and they do a deeper dive with our members and answer questions in Zoom. It's really a great place to be supported. Most of the designers in there have been in there since the beginning, let's be honest. And many of our designers in Designer's Room have that ongoing support to kind of give them that confidence. And truthfully, a lot of them have doubled, tripled, and some have even quadrupled their revenue. So I hope that you decide to join us inside Designer's Room this year. We are just kickstarting an incredible year with really great guests coming ahead, exciting training, and a brand new portal where you can use AI to search absolutely all of my content. You can even search, heck, this podcast. You can literally search this podcast. It's so funny. I call it the AI machine because you type in like, okay, I remember Rebecca talked about, let's say, pricing strategies. You can type in pricing. It's going to show you all of the coaching calls where I talk about pricing, give you the timestamp so you can find it and you can watch and listen to it. Answers to your questions almost immediately. Anyhow, that's just one of the great features inside Designer's Room. If you guys want to check it out, go to rebeccahay.com/join, JOIN, and you can learn a little bit more about this amazing community that is taking the design industry by storm. I also hope this episode was extremely impactful and you got some great ideas that you can implement in your own design business. See you soon.